right, so this session aims to provide an overview of the impact that congenital muscular dystrophies have on individuals living with the disease and their families. So first, let's start by meeting the panel. Maybe we'll start at the end. If you could just provide a brief introduction to yourself, your name, where your home is, a little bit about your family and your connection to the congenital muscular dystrophy community.
Good morning. That was my mom up here talking with the two grandkids. My name is Kristin. I have two boys with SEPN1, ages 6 and 8 now. They've been diagnosed for about 3 years. We live in Las Vegas, Nevada. And we're super happy to be here. They're still sleeping because it's about 5 a.m. for them.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joe Pinkelman, and just real quickly, my wife is Anna Rukowski, and she says greetings to everyone out there, and I think it's actually awesome that she's not here because, rightfully so, you can see that she would be very happy that the baton has been passed on to Rachel, who has done a fantastic job of keeping Cure CMD moving along. I have we have a daughter, Maya. She's in the back there, so if she starts getting a little upset, I might have to run over there real quickly. She has a dystrophloglycanopathy, and she is 18 years old.
Hi, my name is Reagan Foley. I work with Dr. Carsten Bonneman at the NIH. I was introduced to the wonderful world of congenital muscular dystrophies 10 years ago. And so as I say, I tuned into your radio station. I haven't changed the dial since. It's been my research focus for the past 10 years, and there's no other voices that I'd rather listen to. Your thoughts and your ideas have inspired me to fight in your corner, and I hope you know that all the clinicians and scientists here are in it, to win the fight against your conditions with you. And many of you have inspired me, including Gillian over here, with your voices singing songs like We Are the Champions or I Will Survive, and I'm sure quite a few of you can sing a very good rendition of This Is My Fight song, and I want you to know that's also our theme song, and we're definitely here to be of help and know that we're fighting along with you.
Good morning. My name is Kyle. I'm from North Dakota. And my family is sitting back over yonder. My son Levi has LMNA-related CMD. We're tickled to be here. I'm tickled to be sitting close to Ann Kikbatowski's husband because she's amazing. She, I guess Levi's 3.5 now, and he was diagnosed shortly before his first birthday. And she was very instrumental in getting us involved in this community, so we're very grateful for that. So please let her know that. But we're happy to be here and happy to share whatever we can, and this community is awesome, and this is great. Great things.
Hi, I'm Gillian. I'm from Pennsylvania, and I'm 18, and I have college in 6 CMD, and my family's over there, that way. There's Emily in the striped shirt. I'm just excited to be here. I was diagnosed when I was like 3.5, I think, and I've been to a lot of CMD conferences, so I'm excited to be at this one.
Great. Well, that's a perfect segue, Gillian, because I just want to ask a little bit about what was it like to get diagnosed? How long did it take you to get diagnosed? How many doctors did you have to go through? And maybe if you could you want to go ahead and start?
I'm going to warn you right now, me having this is a dangerous game. I tend to not let it go. So yeah, we were very fortunate. We didn't know what was going on with Levi when he was 6 to 8 years old. We knew something was different. We had 2 older children, or he had 2 older siblings, and so we started the process. You guys all know the process. Well, let's start checking off the bad things, and I'm sure it's going to be fine. And we went to the doctor in Fargo, North Dakota. And he's like, oh yeah, well, let's just take these tests and make sure everything's all good, and then we'll come back and we'll do this follow-up and this follow-up. Well, on our way home from that visit, we got a call from the doctor, and he goes, it's not looking so good. So then we cried a bunch and started freaking out and Googling things and realized that, oh my gosh, the world's gonna end. And we got an appointment with the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, which is a very good clinic. And fortunately there, we met with a physician that was able to just fast track it. She went right to the heart of it. And so from August to October, in that just short 2-month period, we went from not knowing anything to knowing exactly via genetic testing and a muscle biopsy exactly what it was. So looking back, we appreciate that, especially after hearing folks that are either not diagnosed or still going through the diagnosis process or finding that it took years. We're grateful that it only took 2 months. It sucked terribly to learn that information that quickly, but we're glad that we knew it and we were able to move forward. And there again, Ann Ratowski, Anna? Well, I'm going to go with Kik Batowski. She would call us frequently, and we'd spend hours on the phone, and she'd talk us through the care and all of that. So we appreciated that. But ours went quickly, and we were grateful for that.
Ours did not go so quickly. We're from Las Vegas, like I mentioned earlier, not exactly the epitome of pediatric specialists. So I knew about 2 months that something was wrong. 4 months, they said, let's just wait, all kids are different. 6 months, they said, oh yeah, something's really wrong. So we went through multiple tests. We saw multiple doctors in 3 different states. We had multiple misdiagnoses. I was told at one point, you'll never find out what's wrong with your son. He's doing fine. UCLA told us it's benign hypotonia, it's not genetic. So we had number 3. Oopsie, they were wrong. And so then I had given up, and I was bored at home and searching on YouTube for kids that looked like my kids. And I found a mother in Canada, and I stalked her on Facebook. And I said, your son looks like my son. Can I show you some videos? So I sent her videos because my Facebook group, Step in One Facebook, knows that I am big into pictures and videos. But so I have lots of documentation. And she said, yeah, he does look like my son. You should go see Dr. Bonneman. So a Canadian mother told me out of all the 6 or 7 different neurologists in 3 different states, none of which ever suggested going to the NIH or Dr. Bonneman, a Canadian mother told me, you should go to your own National Institute of Health in America. So that's what I did. Actually, I emailed Dr. Bonneman. I don't know where he is, if he's here. And, okay. Well, I sent him an email with video, of course. And then I called, and he actually picked up the phone, and I didn't really know what to say because I wasn't expecting him to pick up the phone. And I said, well, I sent you an email, and he said, oh, I've been on vacation. What's your name? So as I was talking to him, he looked at the video while I was driving to Target, and he said, oh, I know what's wrong with your boys. I'll have them call you, and you can come out here, and I'm sure we can get them diagnosed. So within 2 months, we were at the NIH. My oldest son was 5 years old at the time, so we had searched for 5 years. And within 10 minutes and a muscle ultrasound, he was 99% sure it was SEPN1. And that's the only test we ended up running at the NIH. And sure enough, both of them have SEPN1. So after multiple different types of diets as well, because we had about 5 different GI misdiagnoses too. So it was an interesting road.
It's all kind of a blur. I have to take a pause to remember it all. I think, though, just in a nutshell, and probably for a lot of parents out here, her Denver developmental was fine, and so you think everything's great. And at about 9 months, Anna's mother was at that time a pediatric cardiologist, and it was like, wow, she's not still kind of moving toward crawling or doing any of those kind of things. I'm like, no, and well, okay, she'll eventually get there. And but she's like, I think you should just kind of check, because at 9 months they should be kind of doing a little something. And so I'm, by the way, in Los Angeles, and so we went to her Kaiser pediatrician, and they were still like, oh, I think they're fine. And she said, well, I think she has cerebral palsy. And so, and she says that literally as we're kind of heading out the door, and, you know, we're crying and like, oh my gosh, this is, you know, terrible. So what do you do with cerebral palsy? And so then we're just kind of on a holding pattern, and went to a couple neurologists, you know, just kind of, you know, don't really know what we can do for you. Just, you know, stay the course. And so then it was about 4 years. At 4 years, we came up with just getting a muscle biopsy, and that was through UCLA. And they really didn't quite know what to do with it. And so it just, again, was kind of in a holding tank. And so then I think it was around, Maya was about approaching 7, 8 years old. And I forgot how the connection happened, but Anna got in contact with a doctor in London, Dr. Francesco Mantoni. And did I say it right? Okay, same with Rukowski, like, did I say it right? And says, oh, you have to talk to Kevin Campbell at the University of Iowa. And that's the path you have to go. And sure enough, he gets this sample, and it ended up a POMT1 and the district glycanopathy, and met Kathy Matthews, University of Iowa, another shout out there. And so I think that's kind of then how it started. And then with that, then Anna with a couple other parents said, okay, we gotta like get, you know, start this Cure CMD. So it was about like 8 years old that we kind of finally got to know what it was.
I just want to do a quick shout out to Anna and just say in 2008 we gathered in Atlanta, Georgia, many of us, in the heat of August. We stayed in the dormitories there, and we had like 12-hour days in brainstorming about how to get Cure CMD started, and that's all a tribute to Anna. She galvanized the community. She had so much energy. The awareness of CMD just skyrocketed, as well as the funding. And so thanks to Anna, and then passing the torch on to Rachel, that's why we're all here today. So tell her that, please. Hopefully she's listening.
Like, I don't really remember all of like when I was diagnosed because I was baby and like 3, but from what my like mom has told me and stuff, they didn't know what I had when I was baby. I was kind of like really floppy and like whatever, and they thought like doctors just said like, you know, she'll get out of it, like she'll grow out of it. And then as I got older, I like couldn't hold my head up and stuff, and then we went to DuPont, I think, and they couldn't figure out what I had. And then we met Dr. Finkel, who worked at CHOP, and he said, I think I know what you have. I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Bonneman. And so we went there to CHOP, and they diagnosed me. I think I was like 3.5. And then we met like all my friends, like Luke and Liam and Brad, and we started going to conferences, and it was like a quick diagnosis, but not really at the same time. Like, it took a while, but not like crazy long time. So that was cool. And I don't really remember much of it because I was little, but I'm glad that we went to CHOP, and we were so lucky that like we only live like 30 minutes away from Philadelphia, so we were really lucky that we had a doctor so close that knew everything about my disease and could tell us like what we needed to do and like, you know, how everything was going to be as I grew up. So that was really nice.
So we have some great resources in this community for diagnosis. Some really great physicians out there. Who were your biggest supports after you were diagnosed? What kind of got you through that? What was your reaction? What was that experience like for you?
Settle in. This could take a while. First of all, before I forget, I'd like to just say this community, this group is very special. What we have here is pretty awesome. Has anybody had a good experience with MDA? A couple of you? Because I don't want to slander their name too badly. But we have not had a good experience with them, and it's only just locally. Our local MDA support wasn't great. We just felt like a very small fish in a very, very large pond. And it was like they just wanted to get us in the mix so that we could start wearing whatever color shirts they wear and promoting their message. But we really didn't feel a part of a community. And instantly, after becoming part of this, we're getting calls from the founder and these people that are on the board of directors and getting to interact with you guys. And that's been very helpful for us to know that there's others out there and we're in direct connection and direct contact. And so to even have this opportunity to be here too, it's phenomenal. So I'm grateful for you guys. I'm grateful for the Kier CMD staff. I'm grateful for the organization and for the time they spend. Crepes, Rachel's a patient. She's one of us. She's one of you guys. She's one of, what do we call them? What's the official word? Not patient. Affected individual, yeah. She's working her butt off, for Pete's sake. So this is awesome. I just wanted to say that. How did we deal with it? Man, how do we deal with it? We're still dealing with it. For us, it was our family and friends were our closest and best advocates and helpers. We have a really close core group of friends that will just come clean our house without asking, or come make meals for us, or take our kids away so we can cry or have a sad day. They'll help with Levi. They've learned the care for Levi. You know, as you guys well know, care for our kids or care for yourselves is not normal. It's very different. So our friends have taken it upon themselves without us even asking, and learned the care and learned what they need to do to care for him. That's been helpful. Our immediate family has been very, very helpful. Our church family has been unbelievable. If you guys aren't familiar with what the church is, as it's referred to in the Bible, the church is not a building. The church is a body of believers. And we've experienced that firsthand. We're not going to a building and seeking support. We're getting support from a whole bunch of people. Just from as little as people sending us hot dishes. We have lots of hot dishes in North Dakota. Or, again, people like allowing Melissa and I to go away for a date weekend. So for us, it's been people and it's been community. You guys and then our community back home.
For me, after diagnosis, there wasn't really a group established online. There was a Yahoo Health group that was originally established, but I found it very difficult to communicate with anybody on that. So I spoke with Rachel about starting our Facebook group. So I am the moderator for the SciFam Facebook group. And I find a lot of support in our group, and I'm so proud of us because there's a lot of us here today. We're one of the smallest subsets of CMD, but we do have the highest number here out of our group, so very happy for us. But when we started that Facebook group, we started getting more and more people in our group. Every month we get multiple people joining, which is exciting for us because we're trying to build our numbers. But it has been a huge eye-opener to be able to actually communicate with somebody who is going through the same experiences that you are going through. One of the things with SciFam is that when they are younger, prior to puberty, generally people will look at them and think they're normal or unaffected. And they don't necessarily see the problems that we see. And so it can be challenging trying to explain to people that there is a problem and what that problem is. And as with most of you guys, SciFam also has a huge diaphragm involvement, so there's a huge respiratory issue. So that goes sort of unseen because mainly it's at night when they're sleeping, but it does entail a lot of, obviously, stuff that we all have to deal with. So people don't always see that. They just see, oh, your kid's fine. What's wrong with you? You're crazy. So it's nice to be able to talk about that with our group. So it's a huge support system for me. And we have a lot of people that are very active in our group. But probably the number one person that has been supportive is my mother. who volunteers at Cure CMD many, many days a week and spends hours and hours trying to bring awareness and help the community. So I don't know where she is. She's out there somewhere. Yes. So she's been the biggest support for me and my boys.
I would second what you said at the beginning. Just the community of Cure CMD has just been phenomenal, and it's so hard to kind of separate it from my experience with Anna. I think I think for us, like a quick background of her, she's an ER physician, and so I think probably that's as a impetus is that in the ER you're just trained to find solutions quickly. If somebody's not breathing, okay, you have you're trying to intubate, and then if you can't intubate, then you have to get somebody from anesthesiology down to get them intubated, or the person dies. And so there's just this kind of sense with her of like you have to just keep pushing forward and moving. And so I think a shout out with Pat May and Rich Cloud. They're somewhere in here. So to just say like, where can we start? So with these parents, to get kind of an organization moving. And then Eunice Kim, is she? There's Eunice. Give a shout out to Eunice there. And I think, because of all the different subtypes, and she kind of had the experience a little bit with the MDA, it just, and I, it is awesome, but I think she felt, or saw so much of the emphasis toward Duchenne, which is understandable. I mean, because it's a huge population. So I think for us, a lot of the, kind of semi-getting, or at least me personally getting through it, was just with her, with Rich and Pat getting this organization. And then, there was the advantage of her having the kind of scientific background per se, even though self-taught. I mean, she's an ER doctor, but was a biology major, and so, to kind of understand this stuff. And I'm a high school ceramics teacher, so I have no scientific background and knowledge. Ask me how to glaze a pot and cone-10 reduction. I can help you definitely with that, and I can, help you make a coil pot really well. But, all these technical terms that she's talking about, is like, wow. It was like way over my head, so she tried to really explain it in a layman's terms. It was like, okay, I think I understand it, yeah, but I really didn't. And so, I think it was just that kind of support and just getting that moving, I think was really incredible. And so with the first family conferences that started in Philadelphia, was really like, wow. And I think Anna saw with all the different subtypes, you couldn't just focus on one. And you had to kind of see it as this collective group and not see like, oh, well, this one's kind of inching forward here, or this one seems to be lagging behind, or this one's inching forward. And had to really focus on it like it's all or nothing, and we're all in this together. And so I think pushing that, and so just from the sidelines seeing kind of, and on the scientific part, just getting all you scientists together and moving forward, and mixing this with that group with that, why don't you talk to you should talk to this, let me get you that email, and I'm going to set up this conference, and go here, and we'll have this conference there. And so I think that for me, just got a sense of like, wow, things are moving forward. So that was really, I think, helped a lot. So because not really many we're just by ourselves in LA, so no real outside family support. So I think that's been really great. So this, like, again, concluding with that the whole Cure CMD kind of family and how it's really developed, and what Rachel's now pushed forward even more, and the Facebooks and then all those things, and just feeling like you're not in this little lonely island has been really phenomenal.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yeah, please.
I didn't mean to disrespect MDA. I'm sure it's a great thing. It's a good fit for certain people, like you say, for Duchenne, and for a lot of people. They've done a lot of great things. They have a lot of great resources. But it's kind of like being a Yankees fan. Yeah, they're a good team. Sure, we want to root for them. But it's just not a good fit for us. This is a good fit, and so I just wanted to say no disrespect to MDA, just not a good fit.
No worries. So there are a lot of resources out there, and Cure CMD is a great resource. Gillian, you want to?
I think after I was diagnosed, like, my biggest support system was my family, especially like my mom and my sister, because they're like my main caregivers. So they were really like great, and even like obviously now, like, they're still my biggest like support system. And as I've grown up, like, my friends too, that like my one best friend, like, she knows how to like get me up in my wheelchair and like put me on my SIP and like switch my SIP over to my BiPAP and stuff like that. So it's really great to have friends that know how to take care of you and like help you and are willing to do that without like it being like weird or whatever. And also, I think after I was diagnosed, again, we were really lucky that like we live right near Philadelphia. So right afterwards, we went to the Philadelphia conferences and met like kids that were my age and like had the same disease as me. So like Cure CMD, the family is like, it's really great to have that support system too. So yeah.
Great, thanks. Are there people out there that have questions?
Can I add one more thing while they're
Yeah.
looking for questions?
Yes.
I told you this is dangerous. So my smoking hot wife is over there. She's the redhead. I can't believe I did not mention her as far as support. Her and I have been each other's biggest supporters. And so it's been really hard. She's amazing. She's phenomenal. She's the most amazing woman I know. And we kind of pick up when each other's having a bad day. I'm really terrible at it. I kind of need to be hit over the head like, hey, doofus, I need you. But eventually I figure it out. But she's really good about picking up when I'm having a hard day. And so I just wanted to encourage those couples like us that have an affected child. You guys need to stick together. So often we hear of families that go through insane stuff like this, and you hear that the couple split up because, understandably, one of the spouses is going to nurture the child and just focus 100% of their energy on that child. And it's easy for the other person to drift away. And it may be all good intentions. That one other person is trying to provide, and all of a sudden they separate. So couples, stay together, stay strong. Don't forget about each other, because you need each other. My wife and I need each other very, very much. And so take dates if you can, even if it's in your basement. Put your kids to sleep and go to your basement. If you don't have a basement, go to the backyard. If you don't have a backyard, go on the roof or something. You need to have that time, and just don't even get to that point where there can be that separation, because gosh, it can be too easy. It's scary, really. I mean, this is a messed up world, guys, that we live in, isn't it? How screwed up is this that we're here right now? It's great, but it's screwed up. We should be like here celebrating something, but instead we're celebrating each other, and we're a community. And so we just need to celebrate how goofed up this is and celebrate each other. So,
Kyle, you brought up a very good point, and that's that these kind of chronic illnesses and diagnoses can be really hard on marriages and on families. So thank you for bringing up that point. Are there other questions out here about diagnosis? Anything you want to ask these families specifically? All right, I think we've covered it. We kind of want to move on and talk a little bit more about your experiences with the disease. And just if you could tell us a little bit about your child's type of congenital muscular dystrophy, and some of the symptoms that you experience because of it. So maybe just give us an overview.
So my boys have SEPN1, and I guess we really noticed the neck weakness is one of the first things that I think most of us noticed. He would crawl and drag his head on the ground when he was able to crawl, which was after he could walk. He would get around by scooting on his butt. He was actually quite good at that, so he didn't see the need to crawl. And then walked before he could be in a 4-point position. So once he did try and crawl, though, he did drag his head on the ground. What interesting thing about SEPN1 is that there is a difference, there can be a difference in a little bit of severity amongst siblings. So even though they have the exact same mutation, my younger son did not drag his head, and he did crawl before he could walk. They have obviously the diaphragm involvement, so they have nocturnal hypoventilation. So that was probably the biggest shock for us because we didn't realize that they weren't breathing at night. And because we're from Vegas, it's awfully dry. My 5-year-old started complaining of headaches, but I thought he's probably just dehydrated. We've tested him for everything. Can't imagine anything else could be wrong. And no one ever told us to see a pulmonologist. So after Dr. Bonneman diagnosed my boys, he said, you need to get a sleep study done immediately. So we found a pulmonologist, the only one in town. And he said, yeah, sure, we'll do the sleep study, but I'm sure it's going to be fine. Well, after the sleep study, both boys were going hypopneic or apneic 25 to 30 times an hour, and their end-tidal CO2 was about 65, and sleeping was close to 70, and their O2 sats were dropping in the 70s. So I got a call we left the sleep study at 5 a.m. and I got a call at 7 a.m. from the pulmonologist, and he was shocked. He said this was not the report he thought he was going to get, and subsequently they started BiPAP pretty much immediately after that. For us, BiPAP for the 5-year-old went fine. After a couple of weeks, he did great. The 3-year-old, it was like having a newborn again. He would rip his mask off every hour. He wouldn't wear it. It took probably about a good 6 months before the 3-year-old would actually sleep with the BiPAP mask, and before any of us got any sleep. At some point, I think thought, well, he made it the first 3 years without it, so I guess he'll survive tonight, because it was virtually impossible to get him to keep it on. But we went through many different masks, and we finally found a good mask, and after about 6 months he did fine. Now both boys won't go anywhere without it. They absolutely love it. My older one takes it on sleepovers. I've trained them both to turn it on, how to put their masks on, how to clean their masks. We use a cough assist machine twice a day, which they also do on their own. I try and make them as independent as possible so that they can continue with their lives as normally as possible. And we recently started N-acetylcysteine, which I know Dr. Fiero has her trial on adults in France. We're doing our own little clinical trial at home. So I am an ER nurse, so I understand Anna a lot. And we give it a lot in the ER, so I'm fairly comfortable giving it to my boys. It's a pretty benign medication. So I think it maybe gives them a little bit more energy. I haven't really seen any other change, but we have been doing NAC for quite some time now. And actually, it was another family that I know was doing it, and I had our neuromuscular doctor talk to her neuromuscular doctor. Ours is in San Diego, theirs is at Mayo, because I think it's important that our SEP1 doctors talk to each other, because there's so few of them, and if they do have a SEP1 patient, they only have a handful. So I like to get those doctors talking. So.
Very cool. I want to just quickly second what Kyle's talking about with the family staying together. I mean, I think in part with Anna, I can't count how many medical conferences she's flown to in Europe and elsewhere, Australia and every place else. And so I was kind of used to being the, single parent caregiver. And so when you talk about just having a date night, it's super important. And I think, so our daughter has a dystrophic a POMT1, as I mentioned, and I mentioned the togetherness because on a quick tangent, just so 4 years ago we had a surprise pregnancy. So I'm 54 now, so at 50, and Anna was 44, and I could tell right away, she's like, God, I'm feeling nauseous. And I was like, you're pregnant? That memory came back, you're pregnant. And like, no, it can't be. And lo and behold. And so, because of all the genetic testing that's available, it ends up clear, straight shot through, not even that, the biology, 2 out of a 50% chance of just even being a carrier. So not even a carrier. And so he ends up being born. His name's Eli. And I think that was in part why Anna kind of had to just hit the brakes a little bit of wow, I'm a parent again now to unaffected individual. And so, and I'm kind of speaking a little bit for her, but I'm kind of guessing. But I wanted to mention, so within that, the reason why I mentioned that also is because I think in our case, and Rachel asked me to address this a little bit, is the cognitive delay aspect. And that's with Maya, with our daughter. And I think that's been one of the most challenging things. Probably the second most challenging thing, just on an aside, is, I'm at the zoo with our kid and I'm, chasing around, and I've heard this so many times, so I'm so used to it. This mom comes up to me, it's so awesome that grandpas play with their kid. I'm dad, and so now Anna just says, yeah, bring it on, I'm dad. So, so it's pretty funny. And I tried dyeing my hair black once, which ended up a total disaster. The Cure CMD staff will tell you how ridiculous I looked like with jet black hair. And so now I've just let it go back. And so if anyone calls me grandpa, that's totally fine. And so with the cognitive delay, it's actually important because Eli's, can be in 4th gear suddenly, and Maya's in 1st gear. And with the cognitive delay, I'd say that's probably the most challenging thing that we've had to encounter. So literally just yesterday, Maya, she can hear, but she can't speak, so she's mute also. And she's signing train and plane. She's super excited. And so we get onto the subway yesterday on our visit because she's super excited. Crystal City, get on the metro, and she starts having this massive meltdown and is screaming and crying, and everyone's staring at me, and it's call social services, I don't care, I mean, you try your best, okay? And I'm trying to sign are you hot? Are you scared? Is it too loud? And no response. We get off on the next stop, Pentagon. Go up the elevator, she's still screaming, still crying. I'm trying to call Anna, can't get in touch with her, what do I do? And 30 minutes later of just meltdown crying. And Like, do you want to go back to the hotel? She's like screaming. And she finally just naturally kind of calms down. And so I think that was just like so frustrating. And so I would say for me, that's been, so if anyone else has a, child that's cognitively delayed, I think that's been one of the most biggest issues. And also the ability to communicate. And I remember just one quick little short story was when Maya was about like 5, she's just crying all day long, all day long, just crying. The school called, God, Maya's just crying. She's so upset. She just can't stop crying, and comes home in the afternoon. And Anna's like, Maya, what's wrong? And just trying to figure it out. And I kid you not, at about 7 p.m., we take off her shoes, and a little pebble falls out. And this little sharp pebble was pushing on her toe all day long, and she could not communicate that there's a little pebble in her shoe, and that it's like killing her toe. And so just to this day, I'm like a trained dog. I always shake out the shoes and like sweep things out. And I just thought, wow, it's just something as simple as not being able to say, hey, can you take off my shoe again? And my foot hurts, and that little pebble fell out, stop crying. So like 11 hours of crying. It's like, wow. So that's I think probably been I would say the most challenging. And even with she uses this Dynavox talker. It's kind of like what Stephen Hawking uses. Those engaged voice boxes. And she does have can sign words, but there's just still, with that cognitive delay, it's whether we're at the, you can't kind of rationally explain things, like the sound of the ocean and why it's loud, or, just kind of phenomena that occurs in our daily world, and even at the most base level makes it, that's been probably the most frustrating thing. And like I said yesterday, so I don't have an answer for it or a solution. It's just something I'm just at least better now of weathering the storm. I don't get frustrated. I don't care that people are staring at me and, what did he do to her? And just like, I didn't do anything to her, trying to help her. You're welcome to help out if you can. Just stop staring. But it's like, wow. And here I thought we were gonna have this great moment on the subway, and, it ended up a disaster. So, just trying as best to work with that aspect, which I think does affect some of the population in the CMDs, and just try and be extremely patient to work it through.
Levi has LCMD, which we always say he's one of 40. Yesterday we were visiting with our friends from New York. They said one of 50. It's ridiculously rare is what I always say. You guys all know that. We're all one of 50 or whatever the crazy number is. The way he's affected, Levi has always had very, very limited mobility. He's never been able to sit up on his own, except for one time. We propped him up just right, and he had it for about, 30 minutes. We have a picture of it, so we know it happened. But other than that, he hasn't sat up on his own. He's never stood. He's never crawled. He can't hold his head up on his own. He cannot lift his arms up. He can just kind of push his shoulder like this. His legs and hips seem to work quite well. So oftentimes, he'll spend his day lying on the floor playing iPad with his toes. And we're one of those weird families where it's like, oh, we don't want to have too much iPad or too much TV. It's going to mess up your kids. Whatever. With Levi, we just cut him loose because, like, what else can he do? He lies on the floor, and it's this weird challenge of, like, normally we wouldn't give our kids an iPad to entertain them, or we'd try not to, at least use it as a last resort. But with him, it's like, well, I guess we have to. He does have breathing support. He's on a BiPAP machine overnight. I don't know all of the numbers, like you mentioned, but a lot of those. He's got those too. We've had a couple of sleep studies done, and his numbers were irregular. So he does use a BiPAP machine for breathing assistance at night. I wouldn't say it's required at this point, but it's certainly helpful, and he sleeps better with it. He's still only 3, so he hasn't quite learned that it's... I think he'll get there, where he will prefer that. He's fed by a tube. He has a milkshake every day in his G-hole, I call it. It's a gastronomy tube right here. He actually has a G and a J. Does anybody have a G or a J or both? You guys know what I'm talking about? There's a hole inside my son's stomach, and we stick a pipe in there and bloop, pump it all in. And that's how he eats. He can eat by mouth. He chooses not to. I think it's difficult for him. I keep referring to him. Hi, Levi. Hi, bud. Hey. He's got supports on his chair by his chin right here and right here. So I imagine it's difficult for him to chew. And he's never been a fan of eating, even sweets, like sugar. We'll stick sugar in his mouth, and he doesn't want it. So we ended up going with the feeding tube to make sure he's getting his nutrients. And our affected individuals, as you guys know, are small. And so it's important that they get their nutrition and their calories and their intake. And our nutritionist, ironically, she goes, "Oh, his fat stores are good." I'm like, "You kidding me? Have you seen him with his shirt off? What fat stores?" But she thinks they're there. So it's working. Melissa, what else does he have and use? Monitor the heart. Yes, so heart involvement is very significant in LCMD, as it is in most CMDs. That's the scary one. And the scary thing is we just don't know. That's the scariest thing with all these CMDs, I think, is we don't know. Like, you can't look at years and years of research and say, oh, we think it's going to be this, we think it's going to be that. So we do have his heart monitored every 6 months. He has all of the arteriograms, electrocardio, whatever, echo, all of those grams. He has it monitored, and so far it looks good. He's an otherwise healthy individual. How many of you guys get asked the question, "Oh, how's your child doing?" What do you say? Well, he's as good as he can be. He's as good as he can be today. The prognosis is still terrible, but thanks for asking. And everybody means well. They really do. Like, what else? Do you guys remember before you had your affected individual, you would ask that question? "Oh, how's Sam doing today?" Oh. Then you'd leave really quickly because it got uncomfortable. So I don't know where I was going with that. What else? There's just so much stuff. It's totally changed our lives. His care, he requires 100% care 100% of the time. We can't leave him in a room by himself. Even when he's in his chair, it gives him some independence, but we can't. He's incredibly intelligent. There's no cognitive delay, fortunately, with our son anyway, and I think with most LCMD children or people. So we're very fortunate that way, but there again, we cannot let him just go off on his own. He is in preschool, and we have elected to be weirdos even more than we already are and go homeschooling next year. And it was driven largely because of the fact that because he does not have that independence and because his care literally changes every day, it's so hard for us to train school staff, which our small school, we live in a town of 1,200 people, and our very small school staff was fantastic. They were willing to do whatever they could, but even that wasn't comforting for us. Just in the fact that it's like, gosh, we don't even know, like, is he going to need to feed this way today, or does he need to be held this way? What if his one, in a small town like that, there's one person to care for Levi, so what if that person's sick? Well, then does he not go to school? And so we're just going full on weirdo and going to do homeschool. Everything else is weird in our house. We have an elevator in our home. We have a big dumb van. It's awesome. But you guys well know, we're preaching to the choir. Usually everyone's like, oh man, that's crazy. You guys are like, yep, me too. Yep. The hardest part for us is learning that his life may be limited. And I think you guys probably all agree. I don't think any parent should have to think that thought. And I think that thought a lot. It's hard not to think about it. Sorry, I'm just getting real. Everybody laughs, everybody cries. Just deal with it. It's okay. Learning that, though, it causes you to reflect. It causes you to think about what's important in life. And I tell you what, we take every day, we count every day very special. And we used to. Everybody always says that. Oh, every day's an adventure. Every day's a gift. And even now we still struggle with that. But boy, it's more important than ever now to value every single moment we have. Because we just don't know. And we never know, really. I mean, we were exposed to the reality that things could change for our son. But really, nobody knows. Whether you've got a child that's affected with a ridiculously rare disease or not, you don't know. And so after reflecting on that, our faith was strong prior to this, but really we got stripped down to nothing. And we realized, you know what? Our hope is not in this world because we're all going to die someday. We don't have hope in tomorrow because we don't know if tomorrow's going to come. But we do have hope in Jesus. And so we cling to that hope. And that's ultimately when we get down to nothing and we realize that, holy crap, this is going to get serious real soon. That's what gets us through. And that's what we cling to. And so we've started this thing called Levi's Hope. You guys have all started your advocacy groups. I know we follow a lot of them. And Levi's Hope is that someday there will be a treatment and a cure for CMD. We believe that. But ultimately our hope is in Jesus. No matter what happens, that's where our hope is, and that's what we cling to. And man, it's tough, but we have each other. We rally around each other. There's a lot of really brilliant people working towards a treatment and a cure, like Giselle Bon. And what's your guy's name? Carson Bonneman. I hear he's pretty good, too. There's a lot of really great... Is he here?
He's here.
Where is he?
He's seeing patients.
Here? Cheapers. So there's a lot of really, really brilliant people. That brings me comfort to know that our small group, our small community, relative to the 7 billion people on this planet, that there's these really intelligent folks working towards a cure.
And you're sitting right next to him.
Who are you? You're a genius? Well, thank you for all your work and to all your colleagues.
Gillian, do you want to tell us a little bit about your congenital muscular dystrophy?
Sure. So I have collagen 6. So I never walked when I was little, but I used to kneel around on my knees. And I think I did that until I was about 5. And that's when I got my first wheelchair. And I was really excited because I was like, yes, now I can run away from my mom whenever she's bothering me. No, kidding, I love her. But that was really great to like have that like mobility then, to be able to go like, and the independence of having like a wheelchair and being able to drive around and be like not in a stroller with like somebody pushing me. So it was really nice for me. And then like as I got older. And then I think when I was 5, I also got a CPAP because I think I was having a hard time breathing, I assume. And I really did not want the CPAP because I was scared. I'm terrified of those like triangle face masks that go on your face, like those scare me. So even now, when we went to the sleep study, they said, we won't put the mask on you until you go to sleep. So I stayed up all night till 7:30 in the morning and didn't sleep. I'm very stubborn, so they didn't really like that. So I had to do 2 nights as a sleep study, and I got like a nasal cannula mask, so that was good, and I was set on that. And then a few years later, I went to BiPAP because I needed extra support. And then when I was 9 years old, I had spinal fusion. So I have a rod in my back that goes from right up below my neck to my pelvis. And that's been a while. That was like 2008, I think. And it took me like a year to recover from that because that was a really big surgery. And I had to do rehab the next year because I was not like myself really after that. And then when I was 13, I think, I got my SIP machine because I was having a hard time breathing during the day. And I wasn't actually really nervous about getting the SIP because I knew a few people that were already on it, and it didn't really scare me. But I know that a lot of people can be nervous about like BiPAPs and SIPs, and I think it's good to know that they're helpful and they're not something scary, and they may look really medically freaky, but like they help so much. Like if I didn't have my SIP, I probably wouldn't be able to like go out during the day and like have fun and, you know, like hang out with my friends and stuff like that. So that was great. And what else has happened? I had some kidney stone surgeries a few years ago, and that was kind of hard, but got over that. But yeah, now I'm 18, so I've been driving a wheelchair since I was 5 years old, which is a very long time. I always love the comments when people are like, "Oh, you really know how to drive that thing." I'm like, "Yeah, I do. I do know how to drive it." And, yeah, we have a big giant van that has a lift, and it's like a white utility truck, and so we call it the creeper van because it looks really creepy. And, I have a hospital bed at home because it's easier for me because I need to like lay down and sit up at night. And so being in a hotel bed is not very fun, but I'm doing it. And that's about it, I think, yeah.
So Joe, you had mentioned, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to mention one other quick thing, and that would be also just in terms of the management, and this, again, in no case, in any way, shape, or form would be like one size fits all. So maybe Reagan, or also I see Kathy Matthews here, they could also address this either now or later. But I would say also one of the things for Maya, at about 8, she was getting really weak, and the neurologist said, "Oh, well, she's weak." I was like, "Yeah, okay, you know, that's going to be natural." But no, she was weak. There's weak and there's weak, and she was really weak. And so I would say starting at about 8, we started prednisone. And again, it's not a one-size-fits-all. It shows efficacy in some Duchenne, and they still don't really quite know. So she's on about 35 milligrams every other day. We've tapered it down to about 25 milligrams now every other day. But that was a game changer because at that 8 years old, like and Kyle addressing the longevity, like we needed to like start considering hospice because she was that was how weak she was. And so I would say for us, and that might be particular with the dystrophloglycanopathy POMT1, but the prednisone really was a game changer. So again, not all, but that's definitely like has made just life better for Maya. So I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to actually have, I think, breakout sessions, both scientific and care, so today and tomorrow, to go through, as you're mentioning, this a huge spectrum, even here on the stage, and different recommendations that are condition-specific. But one thing I wanted to highlight, which is you are a phenomenal resource for each other, and I can't thank the parents enough for embracing each other. So we've had new diagnoses in our clinic where we ask moms to go online to the Facebook page, and immediately they get 25 hellos from other families, and the parents start to cry. They're so overwhelmed by how they're embraced by this community, and that's really a credit to all of you. And you also are wonderful at finding others who may need help and then alerting them to reach out to us or telling us to reach out to them, and that's really important. So if you hear of anybody who is maybe not getting the right care, and you know it's not the right care because your child has the same condition, do encourage them to reach out, because there are areas in the U.S. where there really isn't specialty knowledge, and it's important that you know that we're here to help, and so feel free to refer people on to us too if we can be a reference.
Great. So, Joe, you had mentioned that the cognitive delays were perhaps one of the most challenging things for you as a parent to deal with. I kind of wanted to just tease that out and ask the other parents and Gillian on here, what are the most challenging aspects of the disease for you? Of all the symptoms and all the various parts that you've experienced? And maybe I'll just start right here.
Probably the most challenging is just like figuring out like all the equipment that you have to have and like where it goes and like all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I don't really think like cognitively I'm fine. Physically, obviously, wheelchair. But I don't know. I think that's maybe too like as you get older, realizing that like things aren't as handicap accessible as you thought they were when you were younger, and so that's kind of like, oh, like I can't go to this place because there's 5 flights of stairs and I can't go up them. But I try to be more like, all right, let's figure out like some other thing to do. Like I don't like to think about like anything bad too much. I like to try and be positive and figure how to deal with everything. But yeah, probably just a lot of equipment, a lot of doctor's appointments. That's probably the toughest part.
I agree, Gillian. The world is not as accessible. Once you have to navigate with a wheelchair, it's like, holy cats. Who loves Target, by the way? Target's wide open. Yeah, Gillian loves Target. We go there all the time just to go. Navigating places is very challenging, although also rewarding. We went to Disney World. We got to go to the front of the line every time because we had a kid in a wheelchair. It was pretty awesome. And we didn't ask. They're like, oh, you go to the front. I'm like, okay, we won't. That's fine. Not having somebody that you can just call on real quickly. You can't just call babysitter hotline and say, hey, we need a babysitter for the night, because you need to have somebody that's specifically trained for your child. That's also very challenging. The always changing nature of their care is also very challenging, particularly for us most recently, his feeding. I mentioned his G-hole. He's been vomiting for the past 4 months pretty regularly, and we can't figure it out. And the doctors, even the wizards like you guys, are like, I don't know. We checked all the bad stuff. Unfortunately, in this instance, none of the bad things were there. So it's just one of those things we got to figure out. And so there again, you guys well know, each of you have your specific situation where you're trying to figure it out. And even once you figure it out, that changes. So the challenge is just learning to adapt and adjust with change. And expectations, I would say, as far as accessibility. Now that we have a child in a wheelchair, we go into a place where we're like, you guys should be accessible. And then you realize that 99% of the world has the ability to use that facility, and the 1% of us don't. And so it's like, well, why would you expect them to change? And so having that appreciation for that, but yet expecting them to be accessible, it's like this weird dichotomy, if that's the right word. I don't know, it feels good coming out. But yeah, there's so many more challenges, but you guys know all of them.
So obviously with 7-1, it's a little bit different than some of the other CMDs. Cognitively, they're fine. My my children have not gone through puberty, so my challenges are probably much more different than, say, somebody who is an adult living with SEPN1 or somebody who has already gone through puberty. But some of the challenges, like I had mentioned before, people don't necessarily see them as having any kind of issue. But I think I know that we struggle with wondering how much to push them because they're still ambulatory, and they both have different personalities, so I never know. One will push himself till he's fatigued too much, and the other one doesn't want to push himself at all. So, and nobody can really tell us other than let them make sure they stay active and nothing that breaks down their muscles, but keep active and let them kind of decide what's bothering them and what's not bothering them. So I really just kind of lean on some of the older people with SEPN1 on our support page and ask them how they feel and what they think has been beneficial for them. So I tend to listen to them more than I tend to listen to our physicians because the physicians have one, which is us. So they don't really know what to say to me. So I think that for us, that's probably the most challenging aspect because I don't want to push them and hurt them, but I want them to stay active and healthy. So you never know. It's like walking a tightrope for us.
And what worries you most about your condition and the progression of your condition or your children's condition? What keeps you up at night?
Bears. We drove a motorhome here from North Dakota, and a lot of the signs at the campgrounds are like, hey, it's probably pretty safe here, but put your garbage inside because there might be bears that'll come and eat it. Thank you. What keeps us up at night? A lot of the things I've mentioned. You talking about the tightrope walk, and the worry is like, is this good for him? Is it not good for him? Does it matter? As caregivers, it's like, oh gosh, is this going to make it worse? Is it going to make it better? If you're not doing your therapies, oh man, I'm not doing my therapies. You beat yourself up a lot, and are we giving them the best opportunity? Or are we giving them too many opportunities? In our situation, we have 3 other siblings. He has 3 other siblings, our child does. So are we giving them the attention they need? It's just this constant internal battle, which I think everybody has, just in life. You are your own worst enemy, is a common saying. And so whether you've got an affected individual or not, but it's heightened when you have an affected individual because you're constantly worrying, are you doing the best thing for them? And then you've got other people involved. It's like, are we giving them too much attention? So I don't know, it's not one thing for us. It's not one thing for me. It's everything. You're always thinking. Maybe that's the worst, is you're always thinking. You can't ever shut it off. And even when you do get away, it's always in the back of your mind.
Kyle, you're extremely articulate with everything. I have to say, kudos to you for nailing, isn't it awesome? Nailing so many, hitting so many nails on the head. So I feel like, wow, that's should be a teacher. I think that's really, you've said so many well things. I mean, and it is like, as all you know, and I think seconding kind of what you've said, it's too much, too little. And now that we have Eli, the same thing, wow, okay, he just, trying to share the pot. He now sees her sometimes just having those meltdowns, screaming. And so at the breakfast table, he just starts screaming and, but he has this cereal and everything like that, but it's imitative behavior. So he just, tries to match her pitch. He doesn't know too, You're like, oh my God. And so, and too much, too little, trying to allow as much, I think driven as a whole, and I think probably a lot of parents out here feel the same, trying to, we try and give Maya as much of a quote unquote normal experience if she didn't have the disability. So it's just all modified. Like we'll go to the beach, and so we might fireman carry her down, or go to Yosemite for the first time, but you use the handicap trails. And Anna was so funny because she was there 20 years ago, and she was so mad that they paved the path to get to Half Dome, and now she realizes 20 years later, oh my God, I'm so glad it's paved so that you can use that. And yeah, it's that 1% to use it. And so now she really appreciates that. So those aspects, and I think as now that Maya has, gotten older, yeah, probably as a whole have more of that kind of existential sense that invariably, we're all going to die. And I still then, even with Maya, Anna and I still even think, like from where we live in LA, I mean, we see the ocean, and given as a whole, the sun shines, and we have great jobs and great life experiences, and we think it's so odd, like the way we've adapted. It seems still so kind of normal per se, and in comparison, like in an existential sense, I mean, we oddly enough still feel like it's still like so great. I mean, we're not worried about walking outside, and our electricity works, our water works. We're not going to step on a mine. We're not getting bombed. We have like a super good life still. It's so strange, even though it's very challenging. At the same breath, I'd say, wow, to the point like we're actually, considering doing like a foster adoption, because we just think, wow, like it's difficult, but at the same time, compared to so many other circumstances around the world, like we still like have a really great life. I know, but it's odd, but it's still difficult. But at the same time, it's, and I don't know if the one family that I just was meeting yesterday from Syria. I mean, it's just like, again, it helps me put it in check. Like, wow, what if I had to go back to Aleppo? I mean, wow, like I have a great life in the circumstances, and it's challenging with Maya, but compared to other circumstances, situations, it's so bizarre. I still have it so easy.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
The question is, what worries you the most about the condition, and what keeps you up at night, basically? Besides kids pulling off their BiPAP.
Yeah. So for us, the most life-threatening is the respiratory problems that we have. So my biggest fear, because our home health respiratory company is not very good, is that something's going to happen to the machine, and then what am I going to do in the middle of the night? I guess, I work in the ER, so I could go there, but that's probably my biggest concern, and also currently my biggest concern. But of course, every parent is concerned for their kid's future, but that's the same for whether you have an affected individual or not an affected individual. So that's it.
Gillian?
I think like my biggest concern, or like, I guess what keeps me up is just like figuring out like life, like not in a bad way. Like I'm not like terrified, but it's just like I have to figure out now, like now that I'm 18, like figuring out like life as an adult and like being in a wheelchair. And I think everybody worries about, what's gonna happen, and like, how you're gonna be in the future and stuff. So I guess just that. But like, I agree with you guys. Like, it's still like a great life. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing bad that happens to me. I know, like, I'm in a wheelchair, and some people will be like, "Oh, that's awful," but like, it's not really as bad, I think, as some people, like, as people that don't know what it's like to be in a wheelchair, or don't know what it's like to take care of somebody in a wheelchair. Like, you can still live a normal life and, you know, go out there and like be independent and your own person. So I think just I worry about like that kind of stuff. But I'm also a very anxious person, so that's probably why.
So you've perfectly set me up for my next question, and I'll start with you. Tell me a little bit about what your hopes and dreams are for the future, and it sounds like this is something you think about a fair bit, but what are your goals? What are your dreams?
I'm really interested in like, you know, activism and like advocating for people in wheelchairs. So that's probably my main goal, is to do stuff along those lines. I am really interested in like, you know, politics and stuff like that, which is, but you know, and I think I care about how like social issues and stuff like that. So I think those are, my future would probably, like what I'm looking forward to in the future is being more out there and activists and like fighting for rights with people in wheelchairs and being a voice for people that feel like they don't have one, or, you know, stuff like that. I'm really interested in all that stuff. I'm also really interested in like makeup and stuff like that, and like fashion, so I don't know. Both.
She's wearing the most amazing lipstick right now. I don't know if you can see it, but there's glitter, and I've been admiring it. So that makes total sense to me now that you say that. And so for our parents, what are your hopes and dreams for your kids?
Gillian, you're such a girl. And you do have like nice lipstick on. It's very nice.
It's fantastic.
2 lipsticks.
Yeah, it's one and then glitter over the top.
One and glitter over the top. Did you get that, gals? Jillian's wearing a nice pink lipstick with some beautiful gold glitter over the top. It's just fabulous.
And orange is cool.
Orange?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I should let you talk about your lipstick, not me. I'm not qualified. You'll teach me. Melissa, is that cool? Jillian's going to teach me how to... I'll let you talk to my bride. She loves lipstick. My hopes and dreams. I hope to change the world. Now, I guess we just want to enjoy every day. We want to realize that it's not that bad. It is actually quite good. We've had a lot of really great experiences in lieu of these other experiences. We hope to inspire other people to realize that there is hope. And whether that's 1 person or 100 people or 1 billion people. In fact, we've already done that. We've had many interactions with people that have gotten to know Levi or our family and have shared really personal stories with us. And so already it's been very fulfilling that way to say, hey, this is awesome. If we can use the platform we've been given. You guys realize that a lot of people stare at you or your kids when you're out in public? They're very interested. And kids are the most honest. It's hilarious. You get this one? Mommy, why is he in that chair? No, this one right here. This boy, why is he in a wheelchair? And the moms are like, no, stop. But we use that attention, I suppose, because people are very interested. And we just let them know, hey, you know what? This is our situation. And yeah, we've got challenges and we've got struggles, but we've got hope and you've got hope. Everyone's got hope, whether you've stubbed your toe or you've been diagnosed with a super rare disease. Everyone's got hope in something. And so I guess our hopes is to let other people know that they too have hope. Everybody has hope. We all have hope.
Yeah, well said. I'm trying to. That's a tough, tough question. I think for me, just personally, probably just. I mean, certainly, like we would all say, the best for our kids. We do that too. Just try and use educational moments of like. Even Eli will ask, why can't Maya talk? Like, well, and he explained that, or to some of his friends, parents that come over, and use that as kind of like a educational moment. So I think then just oddly enough, I probably just really I step outside of just the issue of the specific CMDs and not being, trying to go too political, but just, the issues of climate change, I think, just affect me, and those in need to be taken care of. And if I, like I said, I feel like prior, just what I mentioned, like I have a good life, and if I have this, metaphorically, this pizza, I can give 3-4 slices away, and I still have 6 slices to eat, and I'm still quite satisfied, and I'm like, I have enough. And so I think I'm kind of more, those are my concerns as a whole, just so that kind of betterment of people in that sense, and how the society should be. And I know there's just going to be pendulum swings back and forth, and want to kind of always ensure that it lands in the middle, because I do see people like in the Cure CMD family, and as well as others, they're very vulnerable, and so they need to be. There is kind of a moral obligation to help them, I think, and there.
My hopes and dreams are that obviously the treatments and cures will be available at some point for these forms of CMDs, and also that healthcare will continue to be attainable for people who are affected, and that some certain senators vote appropriately in the next few weeks, and that we survive the next 4 years.
Why don't you hang on to that mic? I have a follow-up question for you. So you mentioned that treatments and cures would be available, and this is my last question for the panel. What do you want those who are out there? We have a lot of researchers still here from the scientific meetings yesterday, and a lot of physicians who treat neuromuscular diseases are here. What do you want them to know about as they go out and develop treatments and cures? What is your message to them? What do you want them to do?
Well, for the physicians, I think one of the biggest problems with at least our form of CMD, SEPN1, is that it goes undiagnosed. So I would love for them to figure out a way to disseminate information around the world, really, to these physicians, so that they're better able to diagnose it. And I'm not familiar with the other CMDs regarding how difficult it is to get diagnosed, but I know for us it's very difficult. And so that was just more, I guess, spreading information and communicating. But in terms of treatments, I'm not really sure how to answer that. I just keep researching, I guess. Keep hoping to find something that will help. So.
I would say within the ceramics teachers, not that familiar, but I think within the scientific realm, I would say definitely, I'm I use always metaphors a lot with my kids, so I always just see it as this iceberg, and you chip here and you chip there, and something, sometimes a connection happens and other times it doesn't, and what works sometimes in a lab, you're trying to reproduce in another lab and it doesn't, and that's an ongoing chase. So that, you just kind of keep at it. I would though say within I think my and Anna's emphasis has now been a lot more on just the care, and in particular the pulmonary aspects. And Anna still receives a lot of calls from parents, and in part, as I mentioned, because has the doctor background, and what she finds so frustrating sometimes is, and you probably know this as in the medical field as well, that just even in the local LA area, for example, like you're trying to talk to a pulmonologist, and well, no, they know A, B, and C, and Anna's like, you got to try D. And again, this is that ER mindset. We tried. I tried intubating twice. It didn't work. We got to try something else. So you don't just keep intubating and intubating and intubating because it's going to fail. So plan D, and it's a struggle because in part maybe as Anna's a female, it's like, she doesn't really know what she's talking about, and you're not a pulmonologist, and what do you know about it? And like, well, I actually really do know a lot about it because I've had to kind of self-educate myself a lot of this, and so I think that's been the biggest struggle, is just within the management care of just getting the pulmonologist and neurologist to like budge this way. And it's like, well, just because the medical school training taught you first A, then B, then C, and we'll just keep that path, and to just try D. And then sometimes when they do try D, and they're like, oh wow, it worked, oh that was good, and Anna doesn't do the I told you so. It was just like, okay, one kind of little fire stamped out, and now move on to the next physician, or that feels like this is just the only way that you tighten down the screw. And just so I think that's been the ongoing battle that she gets when she tries to help advocate for a parent talking to a physician, and can you just try this? And it's trying to push that forward. I think it's been not so on the scientific end. I think I get it, she gets it. It's just chipping away. But with the medicine, with the actual practical part, sometimes it is just so like right in the face. And just to get somebody to just not be the old dog with the tricks, and just like, okay, we'll try this new possibility. It's been really a real battle. A friend of ours her son has cystic fibrosis, and just in that CF community to just, wow, try this, it is working so well. Well, no, because the literature doesn't support that, or those kind of things. I mean, going just a little bit back to the prednisone, it's just like, well, there's not quite the evidence of that. It's working for Maya, that's all I know. And so that's probably the biggest struggle, just on the physician end and not on the scientific end.
Is that Janet?
Yes.
Okay, super tangent here. Has anybody watched the television show Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Is that not her? Janet, are you an actress? You are? Oh. Bummer. Our message to physicians would be keep trying. Master of Metaphors over here said it well. Keep chipping at the iceberg. Because we're a small group, but yet it's very important to us. It's very important to you. It's very important to me. And so even if it's 1 or 2 families that could benefit from your research, I don't know who I'm looking at here, all of you out there, researchers, just keep trying. Those posters out there that have all those words and letters and charts and diagrams, awesome. Keep doing that. Keep learning and keep teaching us as best you can, because we are so hungry for information. We live in the information age. We want to know stuff. Don't ever feel like just because maybe we don't respond that we don't want to know it. It's just we don't know how to talk to you because you're using all these really fancy words. And we're like, yeah, that sounds good. So it's very good stuff. All of your research is great. We consume a lot of information. I guess I'll speak personally. We read these reports. We read all these posters. We read all of these studies, and we try our best to digest them. And it's hard, like I say, for us to reciprocate and say, hey, thanks for doing this specifically. But I'm telling you right now, it's very good because it's all helpful. Even if it's not for our specific affected individual's case, it's better for the whole community. And so research is great. It's so encouraging to me to know that there's research being done for this small group of people. So keep doing that.
I think I agree with what everybody else said up here. Like, just keep going and stay like connected with like the patients, like talk and give information to the patients, because like we're the ones that like know our bodies and know what we need. And so I think communication there is really good, because obviously the doctors have what's in our best interest and they want to figure out how to give us the best life. So I think that's important.
Great. So we need to wrap up. So go ahead.
So say one quick hello to those who are listening in via live streaming. I had the opportunity to work in London, and one of my patients' families actually are here from London. But hello to Sarah Rose in the UK, who's a great ambassador for the CMD community. I think she's listening in, as well as patients all over Europe. I also had the opportunity to work in Dublin. We have a lot of patients in Europe and all over the world who are listening. So thank you for live streaming this to Cure CMD, and thank everybody. Thank you to all of you who participate. I think it's great for the community to have this forum. So
Let's give a big round of applause for our panelists.